All right, we are good to go. Mr. Dan Wardle, VP of Revenue at Vidyard. How are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good, David. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I've got a whole notebook full of notes from this conference, man. I'm learning a ton. And I'm so glad that you could join us. Video prospecting is everything right now. And, even before COVID, I mean, it was huge. And you're at the epicenter of this industry and seeing what works and what doesn't. And even beyond the prospecting cycle, like into the sales cycle. So, we're using video all day here at Tenbound, and I know that it's blowing up in the sales development industry. So just wanted to thank you for coming on, sharing your wisdom. Dan is the VP of Revenue over at Vidyard, and in this industry, in the center, share your wisdom. Let us know how to use this and what we need to do to get more revenue in.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, David. Yeah, it's been an exciting 8 years. So I've actually been at Vidyard since, before Zoom was a thing. It's been a long time coming, and to your point, really in the epicenter of video as a totality in business. We, started way back then calling ourselves the YouTube for enterprise, and we've come so much further than that now. And I'm excited to share today, kind of to your point, what's beyond prospecting? What else can you be using video for in an asynchronous way for dealing with your prospects and customers? I'd love to share some ideas I have on that.
That's great. I'll let you share the screen, and I'll be over in the chat on Q&A, and just send your questions in or any comments for Dan. Let's do it.
All right. Move things around here. So thanks a lot, everybody, for joining today. As mentioned, VP of Revenue here at Vidyard. Through my career here at Vidyard, I was the first sales rep through to running the business development teams, the partners teams, as well as even got into digital marketing at some point, although probably wasn't the best suited for that role. And so what I want you to think about today to kick off this session is what has materially changed in your business in the last year, and specifically which part of the deal cycle has been most impacted as you don't see your customers as often in a face-to-face world. So once you really start thinking of that, it's probably like everyone's having affected on the prospecting side, but what else? What was your in-person meeting? Was it the big boardroom presentation? Was it the proposal? Was it walking somebody through your product? What was that area that's been impacted this year? And what we do when we launch a customer is really to think about that and say, okay, here's your sales cycle, whether it's your prospecting to flip or you're prospecting all the way to becoming a customer. And what areas do you need help with? What areas are you going to do calling? Which areas are you going to do social, email, and now video? So you can really think about it as that next medium into your cadence, and where does that need to be in there? Specifically, what would give you the biggest boost? Video is quick in some ways, but in some other ways, when you're doing a proposal video or something like that, it might take more time. So you need to be meaningful on where you're going to use video throughout the sales cycle. Just because we're a Vidyard doesn't mean we're going to tell you to use it in every single one of your communications. That's not the most appropriate way to use video. You need to think where it's going to have the biggest impact. And there's a ton of different ways you can think about it. There's those selfie intro videos before a meeting to make sure they actually show up for the meeting. There's those contact requests that you can reply to them and say, thank you so much, somebody will be in touch, here's your calendar appointment. But you're putting that face-to-face right off the bat before they even join the meeting. And as I mentioned, the proposal ones are really, really cool, and I'll talk a lot more about those ones. But also just all these follow-ups that used to happen. Are you going to be sending a full walkthrough of your platform, or are you going to send a little micro demo? Really, how are you going to be communicating with your customer between all your other meetings? And can video play a part there? So there's a lot of different ideas here that we'll walk through today. So I always like showing this one. It's one of my favorite little GIFs. It's to catch people's attention, and this slide does it for me every time I go to it. And you need to think about not just that I'm making a cheeky video for the initial prospecting, but it's how are you creating something that's meaningful to your customer, that's going to connect with them, and then how are you going to track that success on the back end? You can think of like a demand-based model where they track the minutes of engagement across your whole website. Well, how many minutes are your customers willing to watch your videos? I talk to Gong a lot around their engagement and tracking and kind of giving a score on a deal by how many responses your customers given you, how many meetings they were willing to join, how many videos did they watch. That's now, can be part of your Gong analysis to really say this deal is going to close because you can see the customers are interacting with your rep. Your rep's not just throwing stuff at them, they're actually coming back to the rep. They're responding to them, they're watching the video, they're attending the meeting. You've got to have that two-way asynchronous, or you're just, throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that they sign the paper at the end. So let's kick it off with 3 different kinds of videos you can make. Then we'll get into the specific examples of how to use video throughout the deal cycle. So the first one, the one that you probably see on LinkedIn the most, is the selfie style video. It's just the camera. Maybe you've got a whiteboard, some props. I should have actually brought some of my props. I've got like a Vidyard logo. I've got some different things. You've got water bottles if you're going to be sending them something, whatever it is in the video. But it's really just that selfie. The point of these videos is to make a relationship, just like shaking a hand with somebody. You're now interacting with somebody face to face. You're not just an email with a name. It's a lot harder to ignore that person now, whether you've already met them or whether you're about to meet them. Maybe you've got a calendar appointment this afternoon. I'm getting into later in my presentation, but still, this is an important one. Let's say you have a meeting in the afternoon. You should be sending a video in the morning, selfie style, 15 to 30 seconds, really short, to the point. Looking forward to sharing how we're going to help your business this afternoon. That's where Dynamic Signal saw less than half of their meetings started showing up. And so they started sending these videos in the beginning, and their no-show rate dropped by half just from this little video, because now you're not letting down a random calendar appointment. You're letting down Holly, who sent you a video this morning. You saw her face. You saw she was excited to meet with you. You're going to join that meeting. That's some of the psychological things you need to think about with video. Now, the next kind of video is a screen share. This is really great for folks who maybe aren't as comfortable on camera. And so in this case, you can still have your camera in the corner if you choose. You could even turn it off. I would suggest to have the little bubble there in the corner. But the reason this is important is it takes the spotlight off of you and you can focus on your customer. And so now you're maybe recording their website to show them how they could change their website using your product, how you could get more efficiencies on SEO, whatever your product does. You could actually be explaining it on their website. You could be starting on their LinkedIn to catch their attention. Hey, what's this person doing on my LinkedIn? These screen share videos are really important because you can really get that point across while still not just being all about yourself. It's not just about the selfie video. So we'll go through some different examples of those later. And then the last one is using pre-existing content. This could be a marketing piece of content. This could be a piece of content from your solution consultants, like a micro demo. This could be a case study from one of your customers. This could just be a video that you use all the time, so you repurpose it and send it. It doesn't always have to be something you're recording personal for that person every single time. So those are the 3 kinds of videos. Now, before we get into different use cases of these videos throughout the deal cycle, I just want to check in on the Q&A. Looks like we're doing pretty well. Some people are bouncing ideas back and forth. Okay, just wanted to make sure there wasn't any questions. Thanks, Will, for kicking off some of the conversation in there, and it'd be great to hear, and I'll jump in there at the end as well. We'll leave a few minutes that we can really go through, live Q&A if people have questions or want me to dive into something more specifically. All right, now let's get into some best practices around making the video. You don't need to have a camera like I do here, kind of aiming right at myself. You don't need to have anything crazy like this. But there's a couple of important things. David, I'll mention yourself. Right before we went live, you turned on some more lights to get some better lighting. You didn't want to be in the dark. That's important. If you don't have lights, I always choose to face a window. Right now, I'm kind of looking at a patio door, which is usually why, if you look at people's office setups that do video, they kind of look weird because they're usually facing a window with some blank space behind them, because you do want that back to not have a lot of mess, not to have a lot of distraction. You want it to be, really focused, and even getting some fake plants and things. I'm still working on that. We We're up here in Canada, and the lockdown just opened up, so I can finally go to a store, maybe get some plants for the background of my video, which would be great. The camera level, don't use your laptop sitting on the desk, please. Nobody wants to look straight up your face. They want to see your face at eye level. So get that laptop up on a stand, use an external keyboard so that your webcam is right at your eye level. Mic, nothing fancy needed. I would suggest a headphone mic, even if you're just laying it on the desk. It does seem to be better than the laptop mic. A lot of the laptop mics have a lot of echo and things like that. So just a personal preference. Myself, I do use a mic here from Yeti. It's a fun little mic because it's also directional. So you probably didn't hear that my son was just on the other side of this room a few minutes ago. I don't know what he was doing. He was hammering something for some reason, but because I have a directional mic, it didn't pick it up, hopefully. So sorry about that. But really, you don't have to go crazy. This was our studio back at our old office. You don't have to do anything like that. Just be in your office, get the camera level up, and have some lighting. That's the only thing you need. All right, the next one is thumbnails. If you know marketing at all, you know that marketing emails have about a 2% click-through rate on average. And so you need to think about that you're making this video and not necessarily people are going to watch it, but they're going to see the thumbnail. I think SalesLoft's latest report says that we're averaging around 50% open rate to 60% open rate, depending on the cadence. So they're going to see your thumbnail. So make it personal, make it fun, make it engaging, get people to want to click play. So there's the GIF ones that are automated in Vidyard as an example, like Shika has here. But then Rory, one of our other reps, does this really cool thing where he uses kind of a green screen, and I think the app is called app, MMHMM, to personalize his background so that he can throw a logo of his customer that he's prospecting. And then the reason he shows the phone is he's showing that this video is going to be 29 seconds, and then he records it and gets it on there. It just creates something interesting for people to engage with and shows that you've made this video for them. Now, I do think someone asked, if you have kind of a hybrid, like should I have selfie videos and this video and these different kinds of videos? The key is if you're going to send a pre-canned piece of content, still record a 10-second intro to it so that it's personal for the person you're sending it to. So it may be a case study that you send 100 times like Dynamic Signal, but what if you made a 10-second intro saying, hey, David, thanks for the chat today. Here's that case study I mentioned. It's at least getting more of that engagement. Think of the old school billboard metrics where you have to see someone's brand 7 times before you recognize the brand. It's the same thing. You have a personal brand. They need to see you multiple times before you have a relationship with your prospect. So getting into some of the sales process examples, I just want to check in on the questions here. Some questions came in around teleprompter and how do we feel about that? We have speaker's notes, but I would try as best as can to only just make jot notes. You want to be authentic. That's the one thing I haven't mentioned yet during some of these previous slides. The key is to not actually make it look too professional. You notice Rory's, there was kind of some fuzziness with the logo behind him and things were overlapping. That's okay. You want to make sure that these videos come across looking like you made it for your prospect and that it's not just another marketing email they're getting. You want to be authentic. And same thing with kind of the teleprompter. You don't want to be reading a script. They're going to hear that in your voice and it's just not going to come across as effectively. Think of these videos, especially in prospecting, they are a voicemail. All they're trying to do is make that person realize that you're a human and that here's the 2 things you might get out of a conversation with me. I'm an interesting human. I'll help you. Let's take that call. Let's get on that meeting and show you what I can really do. There was another one in here that, so Armando, you had asked, do you have individual videos for every prospect or some kind of template? And that's where that mix of maybe a 10-second intro that's personalized to the person, followed by the pre-canned video works, or just a video that is a really engaging thumbnail but doesn't have their name in it and you're not saying their name, but it still looks authentic. You can resend that a ton of times as well. We do a lot of that in our SDR inbound cadences where you're responding to the same, many of you may get this, so this is some hints, after a conference, you can follow up with the same video about that conference. You don't need to make 100 of those videos personalized to each individual person. You could make one about Tenbound and send it out. Now, there was another question up here earlier that I thought was interesting. I just want to scroll back. Do we recommend, different kinds of videos for different cadence steps? So it's kind of back to the prospecting use case. There's really no difference between. The key is the thumbnail. Is it catching their attention? So if you're doing a screen share, make it personal to them or to their company. And that's really what's important. Now, personally at Vidyard, we do our first video as a selfie video because it gets that attention that I'm a human and I'm reaching out to you and I made this video specifically for you. And then later in the cadence, we may do more of a case study, or we may start on their website and explain how Vidyard's hosting solution could help their website with SEO. There's different strategies there. It really depends on your product, though. So getting into those specific examples, let's start with the connecting. So this is a bit more on the prospecting side, but let's take it out of prospecting and really just get into, how am I going to make these relationships count? So I've got a meeting booked. Maybe the SDR flipped me something. How am I going to interact with this person? Well, I mentioned it earlier. The first thing you need to do is make sure you're sending a nice selfie video, just introducing yourself and showing excitement for that meeting that's coming up. Salesforce came to us a few years ago, and they were seeing about a 30% no-show rate. So if they booked 100 meetings, 30 of them weren't showing up. And specifically, the area of concern was if the meeting was booked 72 hours in advance, then those people weren't showing up. So what we ended up implementing is something where that morning they send a video to make sure that person shows up to that meeting if it was booked 72 hours in advance. Just creating that personal interaction. And you can see here a lot of different examples on the click-through rate and response rates going through the roof as well. Because it's just making that human connection, I get 20, 30 templated emails prospecting me a day. How many videos do I get in a day? Surprisingly, I haven't got a single video today from prospecting. And it's kind of what we do. If anyone was prospecting me, you should definitely use a video. But I get a ton of the typical template, hey, do you want to buy a Salesforce list, whatever it is, that I just ignore. Really standing out from them. But then even more importantly is now I'm done that first meeting, what should I follow up with them? So they asked me 5 different things. They asked me about our SalesLoft integration, Salesforce integration, and a case study. Well, let's take those 3 videos, but then intro it with a thank you video for taking the meeting. And so now this discovery follow-up email that used to be 2 pages long, I can shorten because maybe I make a 60-second video explaining the next steps, followed by the 3 videos they asked for. And then in the body of the email, I still put, the details on our close plan. So next steps, when's the demo, who's going to be involved, what information they need, and whatever else you need in that discovery follow-up. But the point was, it became more personal because you're not just giving them 6 paragraphs of text, you're giving them 1 paragraph and a video that they can engage with. And then as a salesperson, you can know whether they actually read your email because you'll get a notification when they watch that video. If you sent over a video to a really, you think this discovery call went so well, and then you follow up with a short video, 60 seconds, and they don't take the time to watch it, do you think that's a good deal? Do you think it's going to go anywhere? It throws some red flags, just like Gong would say. If they're not responding to your email, if they're not joining your calls, if they're not engaging with the conversation, then it's probably not a high quality deal. So you can start to really judge that based on who's engaging with your content. The other thing is in these videos, you can actually drive that next step. You can create a call to action at the end. So this one obviously is a prospecting email that at the end has a book a demo CTA. But a lot of our reps, specifically now, the AEs will have one that gives them 2 options: sign up for Vidyard free or book a follow-up meeting. So it's specifically book a follow-up meeting. So then if the customer is like, you know what, I know I've got that meeting booked with the AE in 2 weeks, but I want to chat with them about that video they just sent me, they can book a meeting right into their calendar using whatever calendar software you have and get that next step going. Marketing has also provided us with some actions around driving people to our conferences and some different events that you can have show up at the end of your video as well. It really depends on what you're focusing on right now. This one's always a fun one for me. It's the exchange and pass off. There's so many areas where we can make better in our process. So we think of, okay, the SDR is flipping to an AE. So the customer on their end interacted with Will, and all of a sudden they're talking to Dan and they have no idea who Dan is. Well, what if there was a video that you just have with each of your AEs that's introducing who you're flipping to? And so then that pass off becomes much more seamless. The customer understands who they're going to talk to, why they're talking to this person, and then they join that next meeting. Same thing, once you've closed the deal, well, what about the CSM? I'm going to introduce you to your launch manager. I'm going to introduce you to your implementation manager, whoever it is at your company, so that it's been 6 months of working with your account executive and an SC, and all of a sudden they're with an implementation team they've never met before. Make that a better experience for your customers by sending this introductory video, whether you're actually in an office and can do a video like this, recording a Zoom with the 2 cameras side by side, or just doing 2 separate videos. It doesn't have to be together. So lots of ideas there on how to make that pass off more seamless. And then this one is a ton of fun. In this world where it's tough to get the CFOs on the phone, but they all seem to be involved with deals right now, instead of relying on your champion to go and sell your product to the CFO, you should be giving them a video so that all they have to do is get that CFO the video. And then you'll get notified when the CFO watched it. So you'll know that your message, your business proposal, your business case got through to the right person who's going to be making the decision. So really enabling that champion with videos that is not playing a game of telephone. They're actually able to take your message, deliver it directly to the people that need to be informed at their company to make a decision. This is one of my favorite ones. This could be a proposal video. This could be an overview video. This could be a recording of the demo or a snippet from the demo to really prove the business case. Whatever it is that you need to prove to that decision maker, you can enable your champion with that. And also internally, there's a ton of times where we actually have a field in Salesforce that shows when an opportunity only has 1 contact on it, and it shows a big red flag on that opportunity. There needs to be more than 1 person. No good sales rep only talks to 1 person at a company and closes the deal. You need to have multiple people involved. Well, what if the rep is having trouble getting multiple people involved? Well, that's where you can do exec outreaches. So every few customers we have, I'll be sending out a communication to their VP of sales or to their CRO, just introducing myself, being that exec connection, no ask, just like wanted to introduce myself. Your team's been doing a great job, which kind of leads me into the appreciation message, which even managers and your reps can do, where they're going to their key contact's boss or boss's boss or executives, but you're not trying to piss them off. You're not going over their head. You're just reaching out to those executives to say, I just wanted to say that Karen's been doing an awesome job with this evaluation, being very thorough, really understanding the business case to see how video can help your business. Wanted to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, let me know. No asks. You're just trying to get in that communication so that you are now a known entity to those people early in the deal cycle, so that if you need them later in the deal cycle, you've got them. You've got that multi-threading. The other one is actually sending kind of an overview of the project and how things are going to people who should be involved but maybe don't join every meeting. And really just using everyone at your company, whether it's maybe your CTO is sending out that video or your SC, and just involving more people internally to also get more people involved at the customer. So that is it on there. Went through a ton of different examples today. I'm going to go through the chat now, so throw in your questions there and we can dive deeper into specific examples. Obviously really passionate about how all of this works and happy to chat through any questions you might have. So let me scroll through here and read. Got through some of those. Yeah, Wilton, I definitely agree. Any early stage video needs to be less than 60 seconds. Next time you're watching a YouTube video and you get bored, check the timestamp. I bet you're at like 35 seconds. It does not take long to get bored. And I realize that's coming from somebody who just talked in a video for the last 20 minutes. So hopefully I didn't bore you too much. Yeah, how many days do you think it's ideal to follow up after sending a video? I always go on the 3-day rule. If I tried to contact you today, I'm going to reach out on Friday or Monday. So kind of depending on the time of the day, I like that long enough that they definitely should have replied by now. Not too long that they've forgotten your first outreach. I love responding to a really hyper-personalized message and saying, hey, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, my video hit home and that it was actually valuable to you. You know, any feedback appreciated, and then reference the video below. That's always a great one as well. Yeah, and when we don't have their phone number, because the one thing is if they do watch your video, follow up immediately. If you get that notification, you know they have headphones on, they're watching your video, follow up with them. If you don't have their phone number, email, but ideally you can find their phone number somewhere, even if you have to go through the 800 number if they're in the office. Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Krista. We have a lot of sessions like this. Hopefully this one was great for you. And then David, final question here. Does video work better depending on the generation of the prospect customer? This is an interesting one. I'm going to split this one into two. There's the generation of the recipient, and there's the location in the world of the recipient. We are finding right now that the Europe market is actually taking to video even faster than the North American market, maybe because their lockdowns are lasting longer. I'm not sure what it is, but our traffic there and our use of video there has 3x'd in the last little while compared to North America, about 2x. So it is growing at an even faster rate. Now, when you look at the generation of the viewers, it's more of a novelty to the older generations, kind of my age and above, where it's just not, it wasn't as normal. Whereas when you're, no offense, Wilton, when you're your age, everything's been done with video. You grew up not making phone calls. You've been having FaceTime chats. You've been using Messenger, whatever it is. And so it's just not as much of a novelty. It's not as like, wow, this person made me a video. Whereas we are finding the other age groups just respond even more to it because they're just used to being hounded by telemarketers, by mass emails, that having something personal hit your inbox, it's surprising these days still, which is sad, but that is the way it is right now.
And Dan, Armando had one about the industry. Are there particular industries that react better to using video, or ones that you think?
It's been a huge transition this year. I would say if you asked me that question a year and a half ago before the pandemic and everything, it was what you'd expect. It was high tech, it was services, kind of the relationship industries. Fast forward to now, we're finding financial services is almost beating the other industries. They're trying to get, they're just missing the in-person more than the rest of us because they were so in-person based. And now we're finding manufacturing. They're not allowed to go into these manufacturing plants anymore, so things need to be done digitally. That one's coming up a ton. The only one that it's coming up a lot but has more security on it is healthcare, where when they are communicating with video, they need to be in a secure platform. So it's just a different style interaction. That's the only one that's been kind of an off market for us.
Amazing. Okay, and Udoka, good point. I mean, it's kind of a new thing, and it may take some getting used to do a lot of videos. But as you can tell from Dan, there's so many use cases on here, and so many ways to better communicate with the customer. So this has been amazing, Dan. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to join. This has been a great session.
Yeah, definitely. And so Dan and the Vidyard team is going to be over in the expo. If you want to learn more about it and just get some more tips and tricks, definitely stop by all the different booths over there and connect with these guys. And then coming up in just a few minutes, we have a panel for researching accounts and contacts, so you can get the personalized information to put into your video. And you guys got to have some of that, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Just don't go too creepy. You got to go to the business level, not to the personal level.
It's so true. It's so true. All right. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us at the Tenbound Conference. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks so much for having us. Bye.